It's difficult to do a 5 o'clock presentation without stealing from your own 7 o'clock presentation. So if something is redundant, just pretend you hadn't heard it. That this, you can, oh wow, I didn't know that. That's something brand new.
Yeah.
Southerners have a built-in sense of melody because of the way we talk, and I'm going to say that again because that may be the single most important thing I say all weekend. Southerners have a built-in sense of melody because of the way we talk. And please forgive me for what I'm about to do next. Sometimes you just have to lean in and take one for the team. All right. Your cheating heart will make you weep. You'll cry and try to sleep. But sleep won't come the whole night through. Your cheating heart will tell on you. What in the heck was that? All right.
First version was amazing.
What was that? Well, obviously, I did the first half of the first verse in a Midwestern accent. Perfectly pronounced. All the vowels were nice and clipped and precise, crisp consonants. The diction was perfect. The enunciation was crisp. The rhythm was perfect. Absolutely straight on the beat rhythm all the way through. Notes were right on the beat. I did not bend any pitches. There was no drawl. There was no dragging. Everything was perfect. And then I did the second half of that same first verse in Hank Williams' old Montgomery drawl. Stretched out the vowels. I dropped consonants. I said heart instead of heart. And I stretched out the time. I bent my time around the syllables. I cried a little bit when I was singing. The notes were sliding and curling everywhere. The melody of that song was in my accent. What if I had compared the dictionary definition of the first half of that verse? Would the words have changed if you just looked at the lyrics? Can you see a difference in the lyrics depending on how the words are pronounced? No, the words mean the exact same thing. But the meaning of the song completely changed when I changed accents because the first half had no emotion in it. It was correct, no emotion. The second half was nothing but emotion. That's where the emotion in the song comes from, is from the accent. It is our accent that puts emotion and feeling into music. It lets the words bleed. Hank's song is a painful song. And the first half of the verse, we mentioned this before, is someone singing about being in pain. And the second half of that verse was someone actually in pain. You could feel that pain in there. At least I hope so. At least maybe your ears were bleeding. Maybe that's what the problem was. Southern music sounds like the way we talk. Southerners talk this way, and I'm ashamed to admit I used to be embarrassed of my own accent. When I was in college, I tried to fix it up and clean it up so that I'd be taken more respectfully, and the older I've gotten, the more I just don't care. This is the way all my people talk, so I'm going to keep talking this way myself. Since American music is Southern music, then that means that most American music has a Southern accent. It's built into the music. Even though it's called American music, you can hear a Southern accent in all of our music. What about the guitar? If you happen to listen to the difference in the way the guitar was played, it was quite a bit different. The Midwestern half of that verse, I played like I sang. The strumming was clipped and crisp, and everything was straight, strict, directly on the beat. Nothing was off. that kind of strum pattern is called a boom chicka pattern. It's doom chick doom chick doom, and that's a standard little strumming pattern. But the second half, if you noticed, my guitar playing changed a lot. I didn't even have to do it on purpose. It just happened naturally. The chords are stretching out. I dropped that strict punctuation, and it turned into kind of a lazy shuffle feel to it as I was strumming. And it was matching my voice. I didn't decide to do that. I didn't make a conscious decision to now switch to a lazy shuffle feel. It just happened. My hands knew what to do because the accent was already in my hands before I started to sing in that second half. It was already there. Southerners play instrument differently because of the way we talk. A Southern saxophonist does not sound the same as a Northern saxophonist, and it's because of what's happening inside our heads. We talk this way, we think this way, we hear things this way, and it comes out in the instruments, whether it's fiddle, whether it's saxophone and guitar. We play instruments differently because of the way we talk. The accent is in the hands, and let me give you an example. I'll give you 3 examples, actually. Do you have any guess as to what this song is about to be? There you go. All right. Devil Went Down to Georgia. If you know this song, then you know it is a fiddle battle between the devil and a little boy named Johnny. Not a little boy, but a boy named Johnny. And Johnny's the best fiddler in Georgia. And the devil wants his soul. So they have a little battle. Devil goes first. This is what the devil's solo sounds like.
Across the strings and it made an evil hiss. Then a band of demons joined in and it sounded something like this.
I was in high school when that song came out, and I used to think, man, the devil won that thing. He was good. He was fast and crisp and clear and just technically all over the place. That was awesome. But the devil was technically flawless, a good classical European tradition to the violin, to the fiddle, but he was missing something. Johnny had everything that he was missing.
Johnny said, well, you're pretty good, old son, but sit down in that chair right there and let me show you how it's done. Fire on the mountain, run, boy, run. The devil's in the house of the rising sun. Chicken in the bread pan and pick it out door. Ready to the dog bite, don't y'all know.
I can hear a voice going along with what Johnny's playing. I can hear a Southern accent in just the inflection and everything he's doing. Johnny was not crisp. Johnny was not clean, but all the emotional truth was in his music. And in the South, technical perfection wins technical perfection loses without soul loses every time in Southern musical culture. Johnny, that's how he won, because he was not technically brilliant. He had feeling, he had emotion, and that makes a difference in music. Our music is better because we play with soul. You can hear the difference between a Southern player and a non-Southern player. There are plenty of brilliant non-Southern players who are great at copying Southern style because they want that emotion, they want that soul in what they're playing. They're trying to pick it up. Let me give you another example. This is going to be a weird one. I love AI. I play around with AI stuff all the time. So you are looking at a 65-year-old me jamming with a 15-year-old me. That's both me. So I'm going to play you what I probably would have played when I was 15. This is the kind of stuff that appealed to me when I was 15. It's like, ooh, wow, that's fast. That's good. That's technically flawless. That's perfect. 65-year-old me prefers this. Which one of those two versions actually had something to say? Second one. I had something to say in that second one. Oh, the first one was perfect. Well, it wasn't perfect, but I did miss some notes. But it was technically flawless. It was impressive. There is a guitar player out there, and I don't want to say his name. Well, he's actually dead, but I know some of you may be fans, but his name rhymes with Smitty Van Balen. But anyway, he plays technically brilliant. He used to when he was alive. But as I mentioned before, he plays kind of like a bingo card. He starts with I-19, and then he goes to G47, and then he finishes up with O72. And everything he plays is just insert next lick here. And you're not saying anything. Yeah, nobody else can play it, but he's not saying anything. I've never liked Eddie Van Halen. I'm sorry. I'm in the non-Eddie Van Halen fan club, but to me, he's just not saying anything. A guitarist who plays a lot slower, a lot easier, but has something to say means a lot more to me than that. Give you another example. I brought this guy up at the end of my previous one, and that's on the left is Duane Allman. And when he and Wilson Pickett recorded Hey Jude, I mentioned that Eric Clapton, who is the guy on the right, heard it, called it Duane Allman, and said, we have got to jam together. I'm putting together a band. We're getting ready to record. You want to join us? And they just happened to be going to Tampa to do the recording, so it was easy because Duane Allman was in Macon. So it was easy for them to get together in the studio. It is the only time they worked together because Duane didn't live much longer after that. But that was the pinnacle of Eric Clapton's guitar playing. He is still a brilliant guitar player. He was never as good after that as he was during that collaboration. And the reason why is because he was around Duane's Southern accent the whole time. Duane's playing and talking was rubbing off on Eric Clapton, and he couldn't help but play that way. His playing is markedly better on that album than anything else. His signature song on that album is called Layla. Layla is a song that he wrote about being in love with somebody else's wife. And it is his signature song. And he starts it off on guitar. But the signature solo on Eric Clapton's signature song is played by Duane Allman. He let Duane Allman take that solo, and man, did he take it. You can hear a Southern accent in Duane's playing. I'm going to play that. It's an extended solo near the end of the middle part of the song. And every high note that you hear is Duane. And you can hear inflection. You can hear Southern inflection in what he's playing. So usually I end up fainting while I'm listening to this. So I'll try to hold it together. Nothing in that solo was a pre-rehearsed lick. That was somebody talking, and the talking just coming out of the guitar. I can hear, if you're wondering what makes that, it just sound like a bunch of old loud high notes to me, but as a musician listening to that, I can hear words. I can hear somebody saying, I don't know about that. I can hear sentences and inflection and words and things like that in the play. It's just coming out in the guitar. That's just astounding to me. Clapton arrived at the blues. Duane Allman was already speaking it. That was his language. And like I said, that was the best Eric Clapton ever played, was on that album. He is still brilliant, and I love to listen to him play, but he's still not as good as he was during that one session, during that one album where Duane Allman appeared. And Duane died shortly after that. They never got to work together again. Is there anybody alive today that can play as good as Duane Allman? Yes. There is somebody who plays better than Duane Allman, and it's only because he lives a lot longer than Duane Allman, and that's Derek Trucks. Derek Trucks is awesome. If you want to hear what Duane Allman would have sounded like if he had lived longer, listen to Derek Trucks, who is Butch's nephew. Is that right?
Yeah.
The original drummer for the Allman Brothers Band was Butch Trucks, and I think Derek's his nephew.
He's in a band with his wife. So.
Right.
Really
Tedeschi Trucks. She is good. She's a Yankee, but we'll pass. The Southern accent and Southern music are the same thing expressed in two different ways. It's the same thing. They are identical. They're indistinguishable from each other. And now the speaking voice and the singing voice. If the accent's the same, then speaking and singing should be pretty close to the same. So again, I'm going to assault your ears a little bit. Let me give you two examples of this. First, Wendell Willkie. If you don't know Wendell Willkie, he was the GOP nominee for president in 1940. He lost to FDR for FDR's third term. He's from Indiana, and this is one of his fiery stump speeches right here. This is the guy who's supposed to inspire you to vote Republican.
The forces of free enterprise must be regulated. I'm opposed to business monopolies. I believe in the right of collective bargaining by labor without any interference and full protection of that obvious right. I believe in minimum standards for wages and maximum standards for hours, and I believe that such standards should constantly improve. I'm in favor of the regulation of interstate utilities, of banking, of the security markets. I believe in federal pensions, in adequate old age benefits, and in unemployment allowances. I believe that the federal government owes a duty to adjust the position of the farmer with that of the manufacturer. If this cannot be done by parity prices, then some other method must be found without too much regimentation of the farmer's affairs.
Wow, we got a little loud there toward the end. What emphasis. And, if you read his speeches or read the text of his speeches, they're pretty good. But when you listen to him talk, there's just nothing there. So let me give you a counterexample. And you can make fun of us baby boomers all you want to, but we grew up with Billy Graham. We had Billy Graham on TV all the time. This is Billy Graham.
Joshua said, choose you this day. Choose you this day, America. Who will you serve? Choose you this day, whoever you are listening to me. Who will you serve? Will you come on God's side? Will you receive Christ? Will you determine to live for Him from this moment on? Will you start reading your Bible daily? Will you spend time every day in prayer, in communion with God? Will you live a disciplined Christian life? Will you stand up for Christ whenever the occasion calls? Will you go to church tomorrow? Will you be in your church tomorrow? Indicating that you are ready to take your place in the fellowship of the great body of Christ in a church where Christ is preached.
It's just so awesome. one of those voices already sounds melodical. It already sounds like it's kind of a song. It's obvious which one, right? He's not doing anything different other than talking the way he always talks. If you catch interviews with Billy Graham, that's what he sounds like. That's what he sounded like all the time. That was his speaking voice. But it was so melodic and it was so hypnotic to hear it, and you couldn't turn away. But it wasn't that unusual. Lots of preachers in the South sounded like that. So what is the Southern accent? What made him sound different from Wendell Willkie? What exactly physically is happening to create a Southern accent? Several things. One thing is called the Southern Vowel Shift. It actually has an official acronym, the SVS, the Southern Vowel Shift. It has to do with where in the throat Southerners make vowels. And we make our vowels further back than non-Southerners. So there is a split-second delay in us getting that vowel out. And that ends up having a chain reaction, which makes all the other letters in the word delay just a little bit. And that's the Southern vowel shift. It shifts all the letters over. My wife and I were streaming the remake of Cape Fear, which we heard was pretty good. Did you recommend it to us? Oh, the original was set in North Carolina. They've reset it in Savannah, and they've gotten non-Southern actors to play all the Southern roles, including Amy Adams playing a Southern woman. And she sounds like Scarlett O'Hara from the beginning. And my wife and I just started laughing as soon as it started. And they do things like they're at a barbecue. They call it a barbecue. They're at a barbecue, and where are the peaches? Aren't there peaches on the table? And they think that Georgia people just have peaches all over the place. And so we turned it off. We couldn't take any more. But if they had hired British actors to do the part, they would have done a lot better. British actors do better Southern accents because they make their vowels in the same place we do. So it's easier for British actors and Irish and Scottish actors to make that transition to the Southern accent. There are plenty of actors I've heard speaking with a Southern accent. When I looked them up, I went, wow, I didn't realize that person was British. And it is. It's just easier for them. Another thing I'm sorry, I put some examples up there that deserve. Bed becomes bed. We all know that. And it's not just one syllable, now it's two. Bed becomes bed. And it's two vowel sounds. It's e. We make a diphthong out of one letter, bed. And cat, and all those good ones. I'm overdoing it a little bit, but you get the point. The drawl, that's the thing they like to make fun of us the most. They say we talk slow. We don't talk slow. We just stretch things out a little bit. But it's not talking slower, it's just giving a word a little room to breathe and giving it a little emphasis. And one of my favorites is the word well, which is spelled W-E-L-L, only has one vowel in it. And when a Southerner says it, it ends up with three vowels in it. It's whale. And you get Y-E-Uh. You get all three of those vowels in whale. And depending on how you emphasize it, you can get well, which means I've never been so insulted. Or you could get well, which means I'm probably about to lie to you. And you can change the entire meaning of the word just by changing how the inflection and the pitch of it. But that's the drawl. Another part of the Southern accent is we drop those final consonants and we leave words unresolved. Like Hank did with cheating heart, which should be cheating heart, but it was cheating heart, which that just leaves that word permanently unresolved, which adds something to it. The lilt, that's the syncopated swing. That's that syncopation that we get. We get it from both African and from Scots-Irish. We get the backbeat part from African culture, and we get the delay behind the beat from Scots-Irish culture. The pitch slides we get where we bend notes and we bend vowels and we give them two pitches instead of one. And we tend to talk through our nose. There's a nasality to our voice, and that seems to be offensive to people. It doesn't bother me, but seems to be very offensive to people that we speak very nasally. We're not crisp and clear. So where the drawl comes from is from blending the African tonal languages with the Scots-Irish English. Like I said, those two rivers converged, and that massive, beautiful thing is the Southern accent. And it is, English is not a tonal language, but the Southern accent is a tonal dialect of the English language, because we do speak with a tonal accent. And when we sing with a Southern accent, and that gives us Southern music. I was really surprised when I found this out, and I started to look into it. When did people first start to notice this thing called a Southern accent? And it goes all the way back to colonial America. Way back in the early and mid 1700s, writers were noticing a difference between the way the southern colonies talked and the northern colonies. Yes?
Yeah, I've always had a question regarding that, because Southerners living in Georgia and South Carolina in the Revolutionary War and prior, I've always thought, well, they didn't have the Southern accent better, and I wonder if they did or not, because if y'all watch the movie The Patriot, there are people in that film portrayed as having a deep Southern accent, already fighting in that war. And I always thought, is that really true? Is it accurate, or were they as recent English, colonists still carrying a heavy British accent?
It is absolutely, and the British used to make fun of the Southern accent. That was, they could spot during the French and Indian War, we were buddies, we were allies, and they made fun of the Southern accent among their allies. The song Yankee Doodle, which was a British attempt to make fun of Americans, their instructions were to sing Yankee Doodle with a nasal twang to make fun of Southern Americans. Yes.
Just piggybacking off his question, gave me another question. Can you tell us why there are different types of Southern accents? I mean,
Sure.
Let's say Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana. You could take 3 people from those states, and there would be 3 different Southern accents.
Absolutely. The 3 years my wife and I were in Iowa, we heard a guy talking, and I immediately said, "You're from Montgomery." He's like, "Yeah, I am." So, I recognize that accent. I know an Alabama accent when I hear it. And it has to do with a lot of it has to do with where from the British Isles they came, because they have different accents, and they brought different aspects of their accents to mix. And people from Wales tend to talk really clipped, a very clipped way of talking, and so the Appalachian accent that picked up the Welsh is a very clipped accent like that. And you can hear the difference. And the Cajun accent is just loaded with humidity and French, and it's just you can hear such a difference. But it really mostly depends on where they came from, the British Isles. But the Scots-Irish who settled in Appalachia, and then there were the plantation enslaved who lived on the coast in the plantations. There's a buffer zone between them where the two cultures mix, and that's where that Southern accent picks up different things from different places and sounds so different. Is everything between Appalachia and the coast, and that's such a diversity. But you're right, it does sound different. There was the Georgia Scenes, which makes fun of the Southern drawl a lot in the Georgia Scenes and antebellum period, and they, of course, remarking on Southerners in Congress with the way they talked, and enjoying some of it and making fun of some of it, because it was Southern, so we got to make fun of that.
And Tom, there's my parents are from Ireland, so I don't really count. I'm first generation American, but it seems like down where I'm from, down there, there's almost like a high Southern accent and a lower Southern accent. And
You mean aristocracy versus working class?
I mean, it's
Yeah.
like some of the lower stuff, you hear it, and you're just like, you know what, that guy or that lady, and I mean this with full respect, because they're good people, but they maybe didn't go all the way through the learning program. They might have quit early and just dropped out, And it does, you can hear, it's not, it's, like in England, I'm told there's there's a certain accent that they have that's called received articulation, and it's a high level. BBC broadcasters have it, for example, and then you'll hear, in England, you can hear a person talking, and if you live over there, they'll know this is a person that I'm going to talk to because I can relate to. And then there might be someone maybe they don't relate to as much, and so they'll dismiss that person sometimes, which is not a nice thing to do, obviously.
Yes, I wonder if they adapt.
Yeah, well, yeah, adaptation definitely happens.
So if I'm going into a wealthier section of Montgomery, and I'm encountering some old Montgomery people and down there, then I might talk this way. But
It's a beautiful accent.
But if I'm gonna go to gas station, you guarantee I'm gonna talk like this when I get over there. So I'm gonna adapt. I mean, it's the same thing.
In my town, it's more like the other one, which is good.
I'm gonna play you two examples. Is the best way to put it. C.L. Franklin was Aretha Franklin's father. He was famous as what's called a whooping preacher, and this is a short example of one of his sermons.
Pardon me, if you please. I believe that God has to do that for us sometimes. Things are going so well, and we are so satisfied, but we just lounge around and forget the prayer. We walk around all day and enjoy God's life, God's health, and God's strength, and go clean into bed without saying, thank you, Lord, for another day doing it.
That's a whooping preacher. Now compare that to what you've already heard. Only thing Otis is missing is people going, tell it, while he's going. But
Arsenio Hall up there.
Arsenio does do well.
The other day, I was flicking through the channels, and a senator from Georgia, Raphael Warnock, he was in Montgomery, Alabama speaking. And frankly, when you hear him speak on CNN News or MSNBC, it's different. When he was down in Montgomery, frankly, he was full bore on relating to the congregation. And he really employed that Otis Red or Franklin type of style.
It's kind of like when Hillary picks up a Southern accent.
Exactly. Yeah. He was trying to communicate or relate.
Relate. The received thing, yes. There you go.
City.
Yeah.
Franklin was a Southern preacher. I can tell you about 5 that sound the same in Waynesboro. That's right.
But the preaching, the singing like a preacher, it's all the same thing. It's just expressed in two different rooms. The authentic sound of American popular music is the sound of a Southern accent. And it doesn't matter if you're talking about a black Southern accent, white Southern accent, Texas, Cajun, Tejano, it doesn't matter. It's Southern accent comes out in the music. What about non-Southerners? Well, what if a non-Southerner, somebody from California or Arizona or something, tries to sing and they want authenticity in their music? Guess what they're going to do? They're going to sing with a Southern accent. This is a California boy.
Yep. Freaking spirit.
Chase them down, who do there? On the bayou, on the bayou.
I'm sorry I didn't pick Green River, but I've met people who swear this guy's from Louisiana because that's what he's trying to sound like. Linda Ronstadt's from Arizona.
But you better not pick, it only grows when it's on the vine. Handful of thorns when you know you missed it. Hold your up when you say the word mine. I wanna see what's never been seen. I wanna live that age-old dream. Come on, boy, all together, let's take the best right now. Take the best right now.
And Anthony Kiedis, I have no clue where he's from. I think he's from Michigan through California. But the first time I heard this song and heard him say California, I thought, hey, wait a minute. That's a Southern accent.
Oh, sweet Louisiana, robbing on a wing in the state of Indiana. She's a runner, rebel and a stunner, from them everywhere saying, baby, what you gonna? Looking down the barrel of a hot middle 45.
Oh, would he?
Just another way to survive. She's my priestess of your praise.
45. I guarantee you he doesn't talk that way. But when he wants to sing that way, he can. And what about non-Americans? I mean, isn't that a little bit ridiculous? But yes, when non-Americans want to sing authentic American music, they have to adopt a Southern accent to do it. Beatles did it all the time. Paul McCartney had two Southern accents he flipped. Sometimes he would do the Little Richard voice you just heard, and sometimes he would do the Buddy Holly hiccup Texas drawl sometimes when he sang. John Lennon sang like Chuck Berry all the time, and whenever George and Ringo sang with a Southern accent, it was always Carl Perkins. You could easily hear Carl Perkins come out in their accents, and they did it on purpose. They asked John Lennon one time, why do you guys sing with Southern accents? And he said, because it sells. He's right. And I don't even know where to start with this. Mick Jagger apparently thought he was born in Mississippi at some point. Cloud. Yeah, that's the way they talk in London. They say cloud. And Adele. I mean, Adele is from London and absolutely a good old Janis Joplin Texas accent.
There's a fire starting in my heart, reaching a fever pitch, it's bringing me out the dark. Finally, I can see you crystal clear. Go ahead and sell me out and I'll lay your ship bare.
And it's a good one, too. She's got a good Southern accent.
Chris Stapleton wrote one of her biggest hits, so and he played it with the Steel Drivers.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool to know.
Yeah, she took it. I mean, I guess, I don't know if they played it first, but it was his song, and
Yeah.
she made it a hit, and then, but they also played it.
Which makes total sense.
Yeah.
It does. And I could have gone on and on. I mean, there's tons of them. Tom Jones, Joe Cocker. I could have just done tons of them that sing with a Southern accent. And it's not just a trick that they use from now and again. That's their sound. Their sound is a Southern accent. Southern music is a performance tradition, and it's important for me to let you understand that there is a huge difference in the music business and music. And I'm not talking about the music business. I'm not talking about contracts and labels and how many spins. I'm talking about just playing and singing music. 3 places, 1 social structure, which was in one of the essays. Front porch, church steps, juke joint, and I left out the work gang up there. I did not talk about the juke joint. earlier, which I should have done. I apologize for not doing that. But what was so great about the juke joint was that the crowd was part of the performance. That's how blues learned itself, by feedback from the crowd. The performer would play. If the crowd liked it, more of that. If the crowd didn't like it, less of that. And so it was adaptive to the crowd. It was a two-way street. And I've talked about this a lot too, the carried song. It survives because nobody owns it. That's the whole point, is that there is no authentic version of the song. And Southern music is just infested with that. It's just loaded with music that there is no definitive version, and non-Southerners can't get their heads around that. They have the hardest time struggling with what's the version, what's the correct version. Let me look it up. Let me go to the internet. Let me find the right verses. I recently did a thing about the crawdad hole. And the crawdad hole starts the same way every time. You get a line and I get a pole. And where it goes from there is just up in there. I mean, you can take it wherever you want to do. If you want to do 5 verses, 10 verses, 15 verses, and none of them are wrong. If anybody ever tells you they know the last verse of the crawdad hole, you just say, make up another one on the spot, and you got them topped right there. I mean, it just, the whole point of the song is just to keep going. You can't look up the correct version of the crawdad hole because it doesn't exist. And because of that, you can't mess it up either. There's nothing you can do to ruin that song because it just keeps on going. Are you any familiar with this old song, Barbara Allen? It's an ancient, well, not ancient, but it goes back to the 1600s. It's an English and Scottish ballad. It's a death ballad, so it is sad. And I'm going to play it for you in a minute. But the reason I'm going to play it for you is because there is no correct version of it. There was a musicologist whose last name was Child, and he collected ballads and he numbered them in his book. He was thoughtful enough to include all versions, so there is no definitive version, but Barbara Allen is Child Ballad number 84 in his index. Even though there's several different versions of Barbara Allen, you have a lot of them to choose from. Roughly during the World War I time frame, another British musicologist named Cecil Sharp literally walked the Appalachian Mountains, going cabin to cabin, knocking on doors, getting people to sing and writing down the songs they sang. He did not have recording equipment. He wrote things down by hand, and he cataloged Appalachian folk songs. The most significant thing that he found was that there were more authentic English folk songs in Appalachia than there were in England, because he'd done the same thing in England, and they were preserved wonderfully in Appalachia. But there were several versions of them, and he was also smart enough to record all of the versions. If he heard the song 10 different ways, he'd put it in the catalog 10 different times. And Barbara Allen is one of those. He did collect 10 different versions of Barbara Allen in 5 different states. And it sounds like this. See if I can make this thing work here. In Scarlet Town, where I was born, there was a fair maid dwelling, made every boy cry well a day. Her name was Barbara Allen. 'Twas in the merry month of May, when rosebuds were swelling, sweet William on his deathbed lay, because of Barbara Allen. That's just 2 verses. It gets sad, so I stop before it gets too sad. But they both die. I don't want to spoil it for you, but they don't make it. Neither one of them do. But
You could make a comedy out of that. The first 2 verses, you could have fun with the rest of it if you want to change it.
so if you had heard that song before, there's a very good chance you heard a different version than the one I did, because everybody does a different version. That's kind of the whole point, is that you do a different version. If you noticed, there are some words, I put them in bold and uppercase, that are longer than others. Every line has one long word, syllable, note. How long? Some of them were 2 beats, some of them were 3 beats, some were 4. The beat never stopped, but it's not the same. The last one was 4 beats long. Which one is correct? all of them. Whatever I feel like doing is what's correct. I can change the drama in that song by stretching or shortening those things. I can change how the verse means and how it hits people. That's up to me, the performer, and that is the whole point of the carried song. However, what if I'm on stage with a group of musicians? How are they going to know how long or how short I'm going to hold out that note? I mean, we've got to play together. And how can they tell? Well, there are two options. One option, yes, this is AI. That's not me on stage with the Carolina chocolate drops. But one option is to rehearse the absolute ever-loving daylights out of that song until it comes out exactly the same way every single time. Perfectly precise. Perfect. The other option is to just listen to each other, pay attention, and when you hear the singer start to come out of that syllable, then you just join in and you keep it going. You still play together. That's easier to do than you think it is. The more you play, the more you learn to listen for things like that. One of those options is decidedly northern, and the other option is decidedly southern. Can you spot the difference?
Yeah, the second is the southern.
The second one is absolutely southern. Northerners have to have it rehearsed. They have to know. And if you hear a northern folk artist perform Barbara Allen, you're going to hear it the exact same way every single time. I guarantee you. They've got it rehearsed to perfection. Their minds explode at the thought of just changing it up whenever and wherever. And like I said before, we live there. That's where we're most comfortable, is just changing it up. Whatever we feel like doing, we do. And we're used to it. And the Brer Rabbit reference, that's our briar patch. We're at home right there. Toss us in that whatever, and we'll be just fine right there. I didn't mention this before because I wanted to save it for tonight, but The House of the Rising Sun is another one of those songs that has several versions, but has somehow been narrowed down to one. There's one version. Same song, it's just frozen. In September 1937, Alan Lomax recorded 3 different versions of a song called Rising Sun Blues that he had never heard before outside of Middlesboro, Kentucky. And there were the 3 versions. One was sung by a 16-year-old girl named Georgia Turner. The other one was sung by a singer named Dawson Henson. The third by a guitarist named Burt Martin. And he recorded all 3 of those versions. And he, on his actual tape recorder. And he didn't designate any one of the 3 as the version. They were all different. But when he published it in a book, he made an editorial decision to take most of Georgia Turner's version and Frankenstein a few verses from one of the other versions in there. So he created an editorial decision that gave us a printed version of Rising Sun Blues. So that means every Greenwich Village folk artist, every bluegrass artist who played Rising Sun Blues after that point did the printed version. The other versions were gone. The printed version was the one. This is what they sound like. This is Georgia Turner's version, the original. If you know the song, can you recognize it in there? Mm-hmm. It's in there. After being published by Alan Lomax, then folk singers picked it up. Doc Watson, very famous bluegrass performer. This is his version, and I'm gonna count while he's playing because I want to show you something.
There is a house down in New Orleans. They call the rising sun, and it's been the ruin of a many poor boy and me, oh God, for one.
I counted 3. It's in a triple meter. It's also in a major key and only has 3 chords. In 1964, a British blues band called the Animals released their version of it, and their version was kind of a collaboration among the band. There were 5 people in the band, and they kind of put together their own version, which that's awesome. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to, you know, change it and make it your own, and they definitely made it their own. And this is the Animals version of that song. Now it's in 2.
There is a house in New Orleans they call the rising sun. And it's been the ruin of many a poor boy. And God, I know I'm one.
Their version's in 2, not in 3, and their version has 5 different chords instead of 3, and their version's in a minor key instead of a major key. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to change it up and do what you want to it. But their version was so iconic that that is now the version. That if you do something different than that version, you're doing it wrong, because that's the version. And one of the most ironic things about their version is because it was a 5-way collaboration. All 5 members of the band had a say in how it goes. But their band manager recognized that you can't put 5 names on a record label as owning the song. So he picked the one whose name came first alphabetically. The keyboard player over there on the far right, Alan Price, his name starts with an A. So the official publication on the record says traditional, arranged by Alan Price. The idea was Price's name was to be a kind of a placeholder for everybody else's name, and then they'd split the royalties 5 ways. The next year, when Price left the band to go off on his own, he kept the royalties for himself. He didn't see any reason to split things 5 ways because that was his name on that thing. And yeah, they never got over that. So he's still alive. He had a very successful musical career on his own, but he never shared another penny with the rest of the Animals over House of the Rising Sun, which he didn't write a single note of that song. He had nothing to do with that song other than his name happened to come first alphabetically. That's the music business. That's the difference in music and the music business. What happens when music leaves the porch for the stage, when it's just people collaborating and making music, and then it gets up on the stage? The music gains an audience and loses a community. The community doesn't have feedback in the music anymore. There's a gap between the performer and the audience. When they're on a stage, when they're in a juke joint, there's a feedback loop that goes around, and that gets severed. Instead of the artist feeding off of the crowd, now the crowd has to clap when it's time to clap and stand up when it's time to stand up, and they take their cues from the performer. It goes the other way around. The music becomes a product. When you put music on a stage, then you got to sell a ticket. And when you sell a ticket, that's a transaction. And when there's a transaction, there's a price. And when there's a price, your performance better justify that price. And so the performance becomes beholden to the cost of the ticket and the audience's enjoyment of the product that they've just purchased. So the whole thing changes. Musician becomes a specialist. On a porch, in a juke joint, if you know 3 chords you can join in, you're welcome, no big deal. Thomas Jefferson was an amateur musician. He played incredibly good violin, but he considered himself an amateur. And in his day, an amateur was somebody who played music and enjoyed it, and was not just some sort of lowlife who knows nothing about music. You could be really good at music, but unless you choose it as a career, you're an amateur. And Thomas Jefferson was an amateur. Today, an amateur is somebody who has no business playing music. Well, you're just an amateur, don't do that. And that's what happens when you put music up on stage. You separate just normal people playing and having a good time from the virtuosos. The feedback loop changes direction, like I mentioned. Elvis was an incredibly electric, dynamic live performer. Then his career went in weird, bizarre ways. And in 1968, he decided to make a comeback. And he wanted to recapture the old days of his early career. And his comeback special was sitting on the floor surrounded by fans that were close enough to touch him. And if you ever get a chance to see this, you're going to see what I think is Elvis's best performance ever. He was incredible, that performance, because the audience is right there. He was feeding off of them more than they were feeding off of him. It's an incredible feedback loop in that. And that's what I'm talking about. When you elevate that person, you lose all of that. And I'm sorry Elvis never did that again. He should have done that more. But that's just an incredible performance. Where's the next generation of performers right now, musicians? I'm not talking about stars. I'm not talking about Ella Langley. Costed $1,200 a seat to see her play here in Auburn. I mean, where's the next generation? They're playing at dark, smoky bars, sticky floors. They're in the altar, singing with the choir, clapping and swaying. They're playing on a rickety platform at a frat party after a football game, standing in amongst poison ivy. That story's starting to sound personal, isn't it? They're at a flatbed trailer at the county fair. They're at backyard crawfish boils and fresh fish fries, and they're on a swivel stool in the coffee house. They're just playing music. If you want to see a star, pay a fortune and get a ticket and go see a star. But if you want to see some good music, you just have to go here. It's there. Catch it here before it costs you $1,200 a seat to see it, because it's the same people. That's what Ella Langley was doing before she started to sell these huge tickets. She was doing that, and she's good at it. I'm really curious to see where her career goes, if she maintains that personability or if the industry transforms her. And I'm pretty sure I know what's going to happen. This may be the most important question I asked today. Why doesn't the South get credit for American music? We did it. It's our music. How come nobody gives us credit for it? How come when you tell people American music is from the South, they look shocked? It's like, I never thought about that before.
We're evil.
This has always been true. To the
Like you said, we're eagle.
we did a little bit. Can't believe the Tiger Paws didn't run in the room here. Victors belong to spoils. Victors write history. Not only do Yankees get to write history, they own the newspapers. They own the universities. They own the record companies. They get to write the history of American music, and they always write it in their favor. Southern music was local, regional, raw, primitive. Northeast music was serious and artsy, and they made sure it came across that way.
It's so heavily processed, however, today, when you, even if you read it, I mean, I didn't go to Ivy League College, maybe, but, I mean, I didn't, but when you read their professors that they're writing right now, it's very dry. And it's too bad, because history has the potential to have layers of texture, and it's just not there.
I did a few years ago, I did a presentation at another Abbeville conference, and I brought the textbooks that I used in music education to teach me about the history of American music. Every one of the authors of those textbooks was either from New York or Boston, every single one. And gee, do you want to guess who they picked as the most important musical culture in America? New England. They said themselves, and they totally, there was one book that said the history of music in America, and it began in 1620. It's like, wait a minute, you're leaving out some folks here in the South.
I was thinking of McPherson. He's a Civil War historian up in New Jersey. Stuff, it's just very boring.
James McPherson.
We did mention this before earlier. The South, the music traveled, the birth certificate stayed behind. The North made money off of our music, and so they didn't see any reason to give credit for it. They were making money off of it, so they claim it. If they don't claim it outright, they claim they saved it, that Southern music was doomed to fail, and thank goodness they rode in on their white horses and saved Southern music and gave it a proper home in Chicago and New York. You cannot help, you can't disregard this. Northern listeners liked Southern black music, but that gave them a huge moral problem, because to give credit to the South for that music meant they had to give a moral pass to the South. And I mean, slavery, Jim Crow, what do we do? So you just kind of skip over it. You just kind of skip that part. And instead of calling it Southern music, let's call it American music. Yay, now we can like it again. There was, just this past week, there was a massive article on Breitbart's website about jazz and how jazz was one of America's greatest cultural exports. A long article. I read the whole thing. The word South never came up anywhere in that entire article because to them, jazz is American, not Southern. We are to blame just as much as anybody else. Part of it is that constant obsession with 1861 to 1865. Like I said before, when you lead with Fredericksburg instead of the blues, you hand them the argument they wanted all along and ignore the argument that they don't have an answer for. They cannot argue with you on music because you've got them. It's checkmate as soon as that argument starts. Another problem is that we're used to Southern music. I mean, it's what is amazing and astounding to a non-Southerner is just Tuesday to us. I mean, it's just what we hear everywhere we go. So we're kind of guilty in our own complicity. The oral tradition of Southern music and its costs, the music business favors copyright and publishing, and the Southern oral tradition just doesn't do it that way. We have several different versions of things, and it's just that has cost our credibility because we don't play their game. Thank goodness we don't. I'm glad we've stuck to our guns and we still do things the oral tradition way we used to. The blunt truth, institutional power plus racial discomfort plus Southern self-distraction plus structural vulnerability of old tradition equals the South's greatest contribution goes uncredited. America wants the product without honoring the source. They love our music and they love to make fun of us all at the same time. Last night, we heard about Dabney and 6 points. So, here are the same 6 points in terms of music. Do not imitate the conqueror means do not get rid of your Southern accent. Southern musicians should not polish up that accent. They should keep it Southern so that we do not try to imitate the North. Every time a Southern musician sanded off the accent, straightened the rhythm, or cleaned up the blue notes, that's imitating the conqueror. Number 2, material prosperity is a false god. The recording industry promises Southern musicians fame and money. Elvis made everybody rich. So did Robert Johnson. He made some folks rich too, but his estate didn't get a penny out of it. We are worth more to them as commerce than as actual musicians. Industrialization concentrates wealth and power. At its heyday, there were 6 major publishing labels. It's now down to 3 because one was broken up and the other 2 were absorbed. But now we've got 3, Universal Music Group, Sony, and Warner. And that's not the same as Time Warner. That's a different Warner. But Warner Music Group, those are the big 3. And everything is being concentrated to just those 3, holding all the cards in music. Number 4, democracy can become an oligarchy. Billboard chart looks like a democracy. It's based on fans. But the fans are given a choice. And when they're given a choice, somebody's already made a decision. What choices, what do you get to choose between? Somebody had to choose that as to what you get to choose between. So it's not really a choice. It's what the label looks like. Brian and I used to laugh a lot about American Idol because American Idol was supposed to discover talent. And all of these people from all over the country were so excited to audition. And for like the first 10 years, not only were all the winners Southern, but like the runners-up were Southern too. They like won first and second every season. And they finally changed the rules. They kind of changed it around a little bit. So I guess people complain. I'm tired of seeing all these hicks win American Idol. But American Idol was just nothing but Southerners.
Always the best winner. I mean, the people that are still most popular, you don't hear about any of the winners really now. It's
Right.
the first people.
Number 5, cities and commercial culture weaken the traditional society. Porch, church steps, and the juke joint. That's where we need to stay. When Southern musicians moved to Chicago, Detroit, Los Angeles, they brought the sound with them, but they left the community behind. And the last point, rest on enduring principles and economic success alone, not economic success alone. Truth outlasts the commercial cycle. Southern musicians who endure, whose work still matters, are not the ones. Truth in music, like truth in Dabney's theology, outlasts the commercial cycle that surrounds it. The music is the argument. It's just waiting for you to claim it. Not defensively, not as a counter to criticism, but to lead with that argument. The Abbeville argument. If the South possesses a distinct civilization worth defending, the defense should begin with the cultural legacy, which is genuinely beyond debate. It's not a debate. We won the culture. When it comes to music, the South is undefeated. That is no brag, that's just fact. That's the way it is. I also publish essays at Abbeville. Brian will run some of my essays from time to time. So, in fact, the one that was passed out last night was published yesterday, the one on the Lomax recordings. I also republished those things and some other essays of mine in my own Substack site called the Academy of Southern Music. You can go there on Substack if you can wade through all the Yankees on Substack. There's a lot of them. I also have 2 podcasts. One's called The Tom Daniel Show. It's an audio-only podcast. There's no video. But I talk about the same kinds of things, the South, culture, music, my family tree, acoustics, things like that. It's an audio-only podcast hosted on Spotify, but spread out to everybody else. It doesn't cost anything. It's free. And I have a second podcast called Requiem Radio, where I invent ghost stories that mix music and the supernatural together. And I put them together, and I have a little AI voice who reads the ghost story in a dramatic fashion, so it's not my stupid voice reading it. And that one, Spotify wanted me to pay a fee to put that on Spotify, and I said, homie, don't play that. So that one is hosted on YouTube instead of Spotify. And I thank y'all for coming. I do appreciate it. I've had a good time.